"Sorry, but you can't stand here. You're amazing customers," said the luxury shopping mall security, pointing to Sophia while she was waiting for her job interview sitting at the bank near the department store. Sophia Petrov, 34, had arrived in the United States just 6 months earlier, carrying a beaten backpack and a dream that seemed each day farther. Its simple appearance contrasted brutally with the shining environment of the most exclusive mall in the city. "I have an interview scheduled," she replied in an accent loaded with an accent, showing the paper with the address. "At the Elegance Collection store at 14H. The security guard laughed with disdain. "Of course you have. Listen here, honey. This type of store doesn't hire people like you. Better look for something more at your level." He gestured vaguely toward the food court. At that moment, Victoria Whitman, manager of the luxury boutique, approached. His nails perfectly made and the designer suit shouted privilege. "What's the problem here?" "This, Madam says she has an interview in her store," explained the security guard, emphasizing lady as if she was an insult. Victoria analyzed Sophia from top to bottom, her expression changing neutral to clearly uncomfortable. "Ah, you must be the candidate of 14H. I'm sorry, but the vacancy has already been filled." Sophia knew she was lying. She had confirmed the phone interview the previous morning. More than that, it had spent the week studying about the store, its products, and even about Victoria Whitman. What these people didn't know was that Sophia had learned very early on that information was power. "Can I ask when the vacancy was filled?" Sophia calmly questioned, her eyes revealing a sharp intelligence that contrasted with the humiliating situation. "Early today," Victoria responded dryly. "Now, if I excuse me, I have a store to manage. Important people are coming." As if he had been summoned, an expensive man approached. "Victoria, how is my favorite boutique?" It was Marcus Sterling, owner of a luxury hotel chain and apparently VIP customer. "Mr. Sterling, good to see him." Victoria smiled falsely. "It was just solving a small situation." Marcus looked at Sophia with the same disdain. "I understand. This kind of people really shouldn't circulate here. Decreases the standard of the environment." It was then that something interesting happened. Sophia did not lower her head, did not apologize, did not run. Instead, she took her cell phone from her pocket and discreetly started typing something. Those who watched attentively noticed a small smile forming in the corner of his mouth. "You're right," she said calmly. "Important people really deserve the best treatment, especially when they are being filmed." The atmosphere was tense. Victoria and Marcus exchanged confused looks. "Filmed?" Marcus asked, his arrogance momentarily replaced by curiosity. Sophia kept the cell phone with the same peace of mind as those who had just sent an important message. "Oh, no big deal. Just documenting my experience here. You know how social networks work today, don't you?" What none of them knew was that Sophia had recorded the whole conversation, and most importantly, they had no idea who she really was before she got to America. Her years as an investigative journalist in her homeland had taught her that the most powerful people always had the most fragile secrets. During those 6 months in the United States, Sophia had not just been looking for a job. She had been watching, studying, collecting information about the world of the privileged Americans. Each rejection, every look of contempt, every closed door in his face had been carefully catalogued in his analytical mind. The truth was that Sophia Petrov was not just an immigrant desperate for work. In her country, she had been one of the most respected investigative journalists specializing in exposing corruption schemes between entrepreneurs and politicians. He had learned to read people as open books, identify their weaknesses, and use their own words against them. And at that moment, observing the arrogance dumped from Victoria and Marcus, Sophia realized that she had found enough material for something much larger than a simple personal revenge. While everyone looked at her with growing contempt, Sophia kept the calm of those who keep cards that can change the whole game. There, before all those looks of superiority, she remained firm as one who knows the true value of patience and knows that the best revenge is always served cold. If this story of prejudice and overcoming is touching your heart, be sure to subscribe to the channel to find out how a moment of humiliation would become the catalyst of a revelation that would leave all those privilegiated in complete shock. From that moment on, the situation in the mall became a public spectacle of humiliation. Victoria Whitman decided that a simple refusal was not enough. She wanted to make an example. "Security guards!" Victoria shouted, drawing the attention of all shopkeepers and close clients. "We have here a situation that needs to be resolved. This person is disturbing our customers and refusing to leave." Sophia remained sitting, watching how the lie spread quickly. In a matter of minutes, a small crowd of onlookers had formed, all whispering and pointing toward them. Marcus Sterling took the moment to show off even more. "You know, Victoria, This is exactly the kind of problem we discussed at the last business council meeting. People like that don't understand their place in society. Exactly, Victoria agreed, elevating her voice intentionally. Some individuals simply cannot accept that certain positions require a particular standard. Sophia listened to every word, recording not only on her cell phone, but also in her trained journalist memory. She had faced much worse situations in her home country. Corrupt politicians who threatened her family, businessmen who tried to bribe her, authorities who questioned her competence for being a woman and immigrant. What these privileged people did not understand was that every insult, every look of contempt, every attempt to humiliate only a determination that had been forged in much more adverse circumstances. Listen well, Sophia said calmly, finally getting up. You are right about one thing. I really don't belong to this place. Victoria smiled triumphantly, thinking she had won. I belong to a much better place than that, Sophia continued, her voice carrying an authority that made some of the gifts back off instinctively. It was then that Marcus Sterling made his biggest mistake. He pulled his cell phone and started filming Sophia, laughing. That's right, guys. See how some people react when they find out reality. I'll post this to my followers, see how to deal with inappropriate situations. What Marcus did not know was that Sophia had worked in 3 different countries, spoke 5 languages fluently, and had exposed scandals who overthrew ministers and executives of multinational corporations. His specialty has always been to identify the weakness of the powerful people, and Marcus Sterling had just delivered his tray. Interesting strategy, Sophia commented, watching Marcus record. Publicly document acts of discrimination. Very intelligent on your part. Marcus's confidence hesitated for a moment. There was something in Sophia's tone that didn't match the situation. At that moment, Sophia's cell phone vibrated. A message she was waiting for weeks had finally arrived. Her contacts in the United States had achieved the information she had asked for the most influential local companies. And the name Marcus Sterling was featured in a very interesting report on questionable labor practices and possible human rights violations in their hotels. The situation intensified when Victoria decided to further climb humiliation. Do you know one thing? I'll call the whole mall security. People like you need to understand that there are consequences not to respect private property. Marcus laughed loudly, clearly pleased with the unfolding of events. That's it, Victoria. Show it how the real world works. Some people are just born to be employed, others to be employers. Sophia observed how they both delighted with what they believed were an overwhelming victory over a vulnerable immigrant. What they did not know was that every prejudiced word, every gesture of superiority, every attempt to intimidate was being carefully catalogued not only on video, but in the minds of someone who had dedicated his entire career to unmask exactly that kind of person. During those 6 months in the United States, Sophia had not lost time just looking for a job. She had built a network of contacts, studied the operation of the local media, identified which entrepreneurs had the biggest skeletons in the closet. Each rejection had been a class about how the system really worked, and now, seeing Marcus Sterling film his own evidence of discrimination while Victoria orchestrated a public spectacle of prejudice, Sophia realized that the universe had given him a better gift than any job. Sophia smiled for the first time since she had arrived at the mall. It was not a smile of defeat or nervousness. It was the smile of a predator who had just identified his perfect prey. Every new humiliation that Marcus and Victoria dumped upon her only strengthened something that they could not see, a silent force being fed by the injustice they were trying to impose, without suspecting that they were providing the tools for their own complete destruction. In the days following the mall incident, Sophia wasted no time lamenting the humiliation suffered. Instead, she did what she always did when she faced injustices. She began to investigate. His small apartment became a makeshift center of operations. While other people could be crying or venting with friends, Sophia was organizing information like the investigative journalist she always was. On the wall, she had glued pictures of Marcus Sterling and Victoria Whitman, connected by red lines to companies, dates, and public documents. Her years of experience had taught her that every powerful person has weaknesses. You just need to know where to look. The first discovery came through public records. Marcus Sterling had bought 3 properties in the last 2 years, all in neighborhoods that later underwent urban revitalization, an euphemism to expel poor families and increase real estate. But the most interesting was Victoria Whitman. His research revealed that the manager had been fired from his previous position for administrative irregularities that were never fully explained. And now I worked in a store where sales had mysteriously plummeted in recent months. Sophia smiled when she discovered something even more revealing. Victoria had posted on her social networks several photos in charity events, posing as a defender of immigrant rights. The irony was delicious. It was then that she received an unexpected call. "Sophia, here's James Morrison from Channel 7 News. I received your email about the story you would like to propose." James was a respected investigative journalist that Sophia had contacted after researching the city's leading opinion makers. She had sent a carefully elaborated summary of discriminatory practices in luxury establishments, not to mention her personal experience. "Interesting proposal," continued James, "especially considering that we received other similar complaints about the same mall. Would you have sources willing to speak?" Sophia smiled. "I have something better than sources. I have evidence." During his conversation with James, Sophia found that she was not the only victim. There were at least 5 other documented cases of discrimination in the same mall, but none of the victims had had courage or resources to confront the system. "The problem," explained James, "is that these people have expensive lawyers and public relations departments. Any accusation needs to be absolutely irrefutable." That's when Sophia revealed her asset. "What if I told you that I have video recordings of everything, including explicitly discriminatory statements made by people who consider themselves untouchable?" The silence on the other end of the line was followed by a heavy breath. "Are you serious?" Sophia opened her laptop and started sending the files. "I'm sending it now." "But James, this is just the beginning. I have reasons to believe that there is a much larger standard here." While waiting for James's response, Sophia continued her investigation. He found that Marcus Sterling had been fined discreetly by the Labor Department for rights violations in his hotels. The fines were paid quickly, without advertising, keeping your image clean. Victoria Whitman, in turn, had left a fascinating digital trail. Her social networking posts revealed a person obsessed with social status, who regularly made derogatory comments about inappropriate people in private groups that she thought were secret. Sophia had achieved access to these groups through false profiles created specifically for this investigation, a technique that had perfected during her years as an investigative journalist. The final piece of the puzzle came when she found that the mall where the incident occurred was partially funded by public subsidies to promote diversity and social inclusion. The irony was so perfect that Sophia almost laughed loudly. During one of the research nights, Sophia received an unexpected message on LinkedIn. It was Dr. Angela Martinez, a civil rights lawyer who had read about Sophia's journalistic work in her home country. "I knew through colleagues that you are in the United States," wrote Angela. "If you need legal support for any discrimination-related issue, I'll be available. Your work exposing corruption has been inspiring." Sophia realized she was no longer alone in this battle. Angela Martinez had an impressive history of victories in cases of discrimination against large corporations, and her reputation was relentless. That night, while organizing to notice the evidence collected, Sophia first felt the family adrenaline of an investigation that was about to explode. She had turned her fuel humiliation into something much bigger. Her experience had taught her that the best revenge was not emotional. It was systematic, documented, and absolutely devastating. And now, with James Morrison interested in the story, Angela Martinez as a legal ally, and enough evidence to overthrow a small empire of privilege, Sophia realized that she had found something much better than a job in a luxury boutique. What Marcus Sterling and Victoria Whitman didn't know was that every act of contempt had been the fuel to create a perfect storm that was about to sweep their comfortable lives, turning their arrogance into ashes before the eyes of the whole city. On Tuesday morning, Sophia woke up knowing that this would be the day that would change everything. James Morrison had confirmed that the investigative matter would be live on the news of 6 p.m. local time of local television. Meanwhile, Marcus Sterling was on his coverage by preparing for another normal day of privileges, having no idea of the storm that was about to collapse over his head. His morning routine was interrupted by a call from his press officer. "Mr. Sterling, there are some journalists wanting to talk to you about labor practices in your hotels. Should I cancel?" Marcus laughed. "It must be some more desperate attempt by any group of labor rights. Say that I don't have time for this kind of nonsense." Victoria Whitman was also living a seemingly normal day when she received a strange connection from the mall's Human Resources Department. "Victoria, can you explain why we receive a formal complaint about racial discrimination in your store?" "How absurd," she answered, annoyed. "It must be that strange immigrant who appeared here last week. She was clearly trying to cause problems." At 5:30 p.m., Sophia was sitting at Channel 7 studio, calmly reviewing her notes while James Morrison made the last adjustments to live broadcast. She had chosen to use the same simple set she wore on the day of humiliation, a strategic decision that would soon make perfect sense. "Good night, I'm James Morrison, and this is a special edition about systematic discrimination in luxury establishments in our city," he announced, looking straight at the camera. With me is Sofia Petrov, an internationally awarded investigative journalist who documents a disturbing prejudice pattern. James's first words were like a punch in Marcus Sterling's stomach, which watched distracted in his living room. Journalist, awarded, internationally? He murmured to himself. Sofia exposed corruption schemes that overthrew ministers in 3 different countries, continued James. Now it brings exclusive evidence about how immigrants and minorities are treated in our own city. Victoria Whitman almost knocked the glass of wine when she saw Sofia appears on the screen. "It's not possible," she whispered, feeling the blood drain from her face. Sofia started calmly. "A week ago, I went to Elegance shopping to look for a job. What happened below was documented in full video." The images began to roll. First, the crystalline audio of the conversation in the mall, each word of contempt amplified by television speakers. Then, Marcus Sterling appeared on the screen, filming Sofia and comments on inappropriate people. Marcus's phone started ringing incessantly. His advisor, his wife, investors, board members of his hotels, everyone wanted explanations about the video being broadcast to the whole city. "But that's just the beginning," Sofia continued. "My investigation revealed that I was not the only victim." The screen showed official documents, prints of private conversations where Victoria made racist comments, records of other archived complaints, evidence of labor violations in Marcus hotels that were systematically stuffy. Victoria tried to call the mall's legal department, but the line was busy. Other stores were already publicly distancing themselves from Elegance collection, fearing association with the scandal. The part of resistance came when Sofia revealed public subsidies for the diversity that the mall received, money from taxpayers being used to finance systematic discrimination. "Mr. Sterling," said James directly to the camera, "we received his refusal to give an interview, but his own videos and statements speak for themselves." Marcus was now surrounded by a multitude of reporters outside his building. His attempt to go out for the garage was frustrated when he discovered that there were journalists waiting there too. Victoria received an urgent connection. "Victoria, her position in the company is being reevaluated immediately. The council is gathered in an emergency session." The public prosecution phone kept ringing. Dr. Angela Martinez, who had joined the transmission by video conferencing, explained the legal implications. "We have clear evidence of civil rights violation, poor use of public resources, and a documented pattern of systematic discrimination." Sofia concluded with the final revelation. "During my 6 months here, I documents 23 similar cases of discrimination. What you saw today was not an isolated incident. It was a system working exactly as it was designed to work." While the transmission came to an end, Sofia remained serene in front of the cameras. She had turned every moment of humiliation into evidence, every act of contempt for judicial evidence, each attempt to decrease it into fuel for a devastating exposure that now reverberated throughout the city. 3 months after the transmission that shook the city, Sofia Petrov was sitting on her new table on Channel 7 News, now as a senior investigative reporter with a salary that exceeded 5 times what she would earn in Victoria's boutique. The report on systematic discrimination had become nationally viral, generating a federal investigation that revealed violations in dozens of similar establishments. Sofia received the National Award for Investigative Journalism, being the first immigrant to win the honor. Marcus Sterling was not so lucky. His hotels faced a wave of cancellations after the exhibition, and 3 federal investigations into labor practices resulted in millionaire fines. His investors have removed the support, forcing him to sell the hotel chain for a fraction of the original value. Public humiliation was devastating. Marcus tried to defend himself in interviews, but each appearance only intensified public outrage. His own wife asked for divorce, citing incompatibility of fundamental values in judicial documents. "How do you feel knowing that your own words destroyed everything you built?" he asked a reporter during Marcus's last embarrassing interview. He could not answer. Victoria Whitman was fired the day after the broadcast. The mall canceled the Elegance collection contract, and no other luxury store wanted to associate its brand with the name of Victoria. She spent unemployed months, being rejected even for basic retail positions. The final irony came when Victoria had to accept a job at a popular department store, gaining minimum wage, exactly the kind of establishment she considered inferior to her standards. "It's interesting how life teaches us humility," Sofia commented during a follow-up interview, "especially when we found that our prejudices were just reflexes of our own insecurities." Elegance Shopping implemented a compulsory anti-discrimination training program and hired Dr. Angela Martinez as a diversity consultant. The first employee hired under the new program was a young Haiti immigrant for the position of assistant manager. James Morrison received an Emmy Award for his investigative coverage, crediting Sofia as a co-producer of the story. "This story proves that true journalism can still change lives," he said during the acceptance speech. Sophia used her new platform to create an investigative series called Invisible Voices, focused on exposing injustices against marginalized communities. The program became the most watched of the station, attracting national sponsors and international recognition. 6 months later, Sophia was invited to lecture at Columbia University on investigative journalism. "When they called me a beggar that day," she said to an audience of 2,000 people, "they were trying to diminish me. In fact, they gave me the greatest possible gift, the motivation to show the world who I really was." The most significant transformation happened in the mall itself. Administration has created a scholarship fund for young immigrants, partially funded by the resources that were previously destined for fictitious diversity programs. Marcus Sterling tried one last card, processing Sophia for defamation. The process was filed when their own lawyers discovered additional evidence of discrimination that had not been included in the original report. Victoria made a public attempt to redeem himself, publishing an apology on social networks. The answer was brutal. Thousands of comments from people sharing their own discrimination experiences in similar establishments. The most powerful lesson came from an unexpected source. The security guard who initially approached Sophia at the mall. He searched her personally to apologize. "I never thought my words could do so much damage," he admitted. "Your story made me rethink everything about how I treat people." Sophia had learned something fundamental during her career as a journalist. The best revenge is not to destroy those who harmed you, but to build something so extraordinary that it makes initial injustice irrelevant. A year later, Sophia was invited to speak in the graduation of the local university. Your message was simple. When someone tries to decrease you for their origin, accent, or appearance, remember that they are revealing their own limitations, not yours. Marcus Sterling, now working on a basic corporate job after losing his empire, watched Sophia's speech on television. The woman he had called inadequate was being applauded by thousands of people. Life has a curious way to teach us that a person's true value is not measured by his bank account or accent, reflected Sophia during an interview 2 years later. Measures for your ability to transform pain into purpose. Sophia's true victory was not the fall of her oppressors, but the demonstration that dignity, competence, and justice always prevail over privilege without substance. Today, its history is studied in journalism courses as a perfect example of how to transform personal experience into social change. If this story of transformation and justice has inspired you to never give up in the face of prejudice, be sure to subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that our true strength arises exactly when others try to diminish us, and that the best revenge is always the success that our detractors will never be able to achieve.